Hi everyone, welcome and thank you so much for joining this summit session, which is all about cleaning your data like a pro. My name is Melissa and let me briefly introduce myself. I work for a company called Ademos and have been with them for over 15 years now. In my current role, I get to work on projects that focus on digitization, optimization, automation, and of course some data analysis. At the end of 2019, I became an enterprise DNA expert. That is a title that can be awarded to members for their contributions to the community, in my case by providing support on their support forum. That's something that I really enjoy doing in my spare time, and has been instrumental in getting more exposure to a wider range of business scenarios. It helps to learn and discover more about these tools, as well as help solidify skills. And finally, my passions, which are learning, sharing, and solving practical problems with Power Query. Let's take a look at the topic. So first and foremost, the goal is to have fun with Power Query by working through some practical examples. Keep in mind, of course, that my examples may be very specific, but the techniques used aren't. Besides that, of course, there are a multitude of ways to solve any of them, but we will only explore one possible solution. Alright, so I've got 3 mini data cleaning challenges lined up. The focus of today, besides solving each of them, is to show you how you can create a solution and reuse that over and over again. Our examples include extracting date from a range of text strings, trimming excess spaces, and extracting numbers from a string. Here we go. Let me zoom in. Our first assignment is extracting dates from a text. They all have different formats, as you can see. That's because I've designed this sample with all possible variations that I am likely to encounter dates within the data from my company. That's important because that means that these formats apply to me and the business logic that I encounter. Yours might look very different. However, the goal is the same. Solve it once, enjoy forever. Before I resort to writing any M code, let's see what the user interface can do for me. I'll go to the Add Column tab, select Date, Parse. In the formula bar, we can examine the M code that this action generated. Note that if the formula bar is not visible on your screen, you can go to the View tab to toggle that on. So on the View tab, toggle on the formula bar right here. Same for the query settings. If it's not visible, toggle it on there. Let's rename this column. Press that check mark. Perfect. So this action called to functions, or at least it created M code that consists of 2 functions. DateTimeZone.from followed by DateFrom. Now, personally, I don't think I need the DateTimeZone.from part, so I'm going to remove that here. If that error is out, I can always recreate that step by performing the same action over again. This actually worked out better because it solved one of the errors that I had previously. So besides date.from, the M language also includes a function called date.fromText. Let's look into that as well. So I've added a new blank query, entered the formula name, and without the parentheses at the end, pressed enter. And this shows us the internal documentation on that specific M function. So date.fromText, it creates a date value from a text string and has an optional record parameter to specify a format and a culture. So now we know this, let's see if that helps us to resolve the remaining issues. Let's step back to our query. And I'll open the advanced editor window. Let's put it here, make it a bit bigger, and I'll zoom in as well. All right. I'll move this to a new line. Now in Power Query M, the equivalent to Excel's if-error function is a try and otherwise clause. So I'll add try, and if this doesn't work, we can say otherwise and enter additional logic here. So we'll call that function date from text. So date from text. Should put a space there. That's no good. Let's try that again. Date from text. There it is. Press tab to select it. Opening parentheses. We need to point to our field that's called text. So in a set of square brackets, look up the text column, text, comma, and now we can enter that record as well. So use the record initializers, that's also a set of square brackets. Use the format field, so format equals, and let's say day, month, year. All right. Press done, and that resolved this on row 8. Perfect. Now note that I've used the capital M here for the months. That's because the lowercase m is reserved for minutes. So that's an important thing to note. Let's try if we can resolve the other errors as well, right? So I'll go back to the advanced editor window, put that to the side and zoom in a bit. So press enter. Let's just do that to a new line. Again, we'll add a try clause. Otherwise, and let's just copy the syntax here because it's going to be pretty similar. But this time we'll also include the culture, right? Because my month names are in Dutch. So we'll say culture equals NL for the Netherlands. Let's see how my format looks. So those have spaces and month names in full. So I'll add another M and press done. And that resolves this short one. We also have full names, so let's repeat this again. Put it to the side. Copy the syntax. Add another try and otherwise clause. Paste in our logic. We'll add another M for the long month name. Let's press done. That resolved this error, but we're still left with that one. And it does have the month short name, right? So instead of 2 places for the day number, it only uses 1 space. So instead of that DD for the day parts, I'll use %d, and I'll also do that here for that full name. So again, instead of dd, %d. Press that check mark, and that resolves the final errors. So let's step back again. Perfect. So we've created a lot of logic to resolve each of the errors that we encountered. And I promised you a reusable solution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this logic that we just created and turn that into a custom function that we can reuse over and over again. So just from the formula bar, I'm just going to copy everything that we see here. So the first try, Control C to copy that. I'll add a new blank query. Open that. Zoom in a bit. And we can use the function initializers. That's a set of parentheses with the goto sign. I'm just going to paste in the logic that I've already brought in, that I've copied. So we need to pass it a variable to this function, right? So instead of this field reference text, we need to replace that by a variable. I'll call that string. And that needs to be a text type, right? Because that's the thing that we're trying to convert. So string as text. And the thing that this function will return will be a date data type. So the output of the function is a date data type as date. And now we need to replace all of our field references with that variable name that we just created, string. I'll copy that and paste that everywhere where I see that field name reference. Done. So this returns a function, and let's call this extract date. So fx extract date, enter. Let's see if that worked. So I'm going to invoke that over the table that we just created. I'll select my text column again, go to the add column, and we can invoke a function from here. So what's the new column name? Let's call that invoked function. Let's call our extract date and pass in the column. So that's the text column here, right here. Let's press done. Perfect. We can also specify the data type here in the column. So this is a type date. Press that check mark again. Perfect. So let's move on to our second scenario, cleaning access spaces. So I'll select that sample that I've got prepared for you here. Let's do that. All right. So trimming in Power Query will only allow you to remove access spaces from the beginning or at the end of a string, but not in between the words themselves, right? So to get that done, you need to create a custom function. Let's design that logic first. So I'll add a custom column, pressing that mini table icon, add a custom column. Let's call that solution. We need to split this string on each space. For that, we'll use text split. Select it, pressing tab. Call our field, that's the text field, comma. and the separator as a text. So in a set of those quotes, put in a space, close off the function, and press OK. So this returns a list, right? Let's click off to the side so we can see a preview down below. And from this list, we can select each non-blank item, right? So inside the formula bar, let's use list select, opening parentheses, comma, selection as function. So we want each item that's not equal to blank, add that closing parentheses. Let's press that check mark. Right. I forgot the each keyword there. So each. Let's give that another go. Perfect. So now we're left with all of the words, and we can construct a sentence again, but just adding spaces between them, right? So inside the formula bar, we'll add text.combine, opening parentheses. Let's open this up, comma, and a separator as text. So this time we'll add the spaces back, closing parentheses, and press that check mark. Let's make this a bit bigger. That's looking really good. Perfect. So of course we can do exactly the same thing, right? We've created our logic, and we can copy this from the formula bar to create a custom function. Let's do that. So copy the logic here, Control C to copy that. I forgot to assign a data type, so let's do that as well. So type text, press that check mark. Perfect. Again, new blank query. Let's open that up, and I'll zoom in, select everything here, paste in my logic, and let's build a function. So function initializers, parentheses, and the goto sign. Again, we're going to pass this function a string, so that's going to be text. I'll call that string again, our variable, as text. And I'll also specify the return type of this function, and that will also be text, so as text. Awesome. That field name reference, we have to replace that by the variable name that we've just created. So this is string, and done. Let's give this function a name as well. So fx trim spaces, enter. Let's see if that works. I'll step back to that query, and again I'll invoke my function. So on the add column tab, invoke custom function. Let's just leave it as that. Select the trim spaces and select the text column, press done. Perfect. So that's looking good. I can also specify the data type here, right? So type text. Perfect. So now we've created two functions, right? And well, you could create a lot of functions. So if you had to bring them along to another file, you don't want to copy and paste a whole set of separate functions. Instead, you would want to copy perhaps one query and bring in all your custom functions at once. So let's do that. Let's create our own personal custom function library. So add a new blank query. and I'll call that my functions. Open that up. So instead of this, let's just create a record in which we can assign each of our functions a field name, and that function will be the field value. Let's cancel this and get our first bit of logic in. So I'll open this, select everything we see here, Control C to copy that, done. Go to the my functions query, and instead of this, let's just create a record. So in a set of square brackets, press enter. I can assign a field name, so I've just copied the extract date. So let's call that extract date equals, paste in my function. Let's format that a bit. Perfect. Now I can add a comment at the end and create a new field in my record, right? So we'll also create that trim spaces one. So trim spaces equals, and I'm just going to assign it a 0, press done. So we can copy the logic, open this up, just copy everything we see here, Control C, done, move back to my FX record, open that up, and replace that 0 by the logic that we've just copied. Done. So as you can see, I've now created a record, and that record contains both my custom functions. So how can you use a record when cleaning data? Let's see. So I'll move back to my initial query and we'll add a custom column. So add a custom column to that. And we'll call our custom function a record. So to call our function, all I have to do is refer to that query by name. So myfx, select that, and now I can access a specific field in a set of square brackets. So here I can call my extract dates field. I believe I've written it like that. Let's see if that's accurate. So that returns a function. Perfect. Yes, I did. Let's open the window again. Perfect. And now to invoke this function, all we have to do is add that invocation sign, right? Which is a set of parentheses. Add the parentheses, call our text column, closing parentheses, and press OK. Perfect. Let's try that as well for our other query. So let's make some space. Let's make this a bit smaller. We'll add a custom column. I'll do that via that mini table icon. Add a custom column. Call my custom function library. So myfx. In a set of square brackets, I can call the field from my record. So in this case, that's trim spaces. Close that off and use the parentheses to invoke that function. So a set of parentheses, pass in our text field, right? Closing parentheses, press OK. And this error out. Why did it error out? Let's see. Trim space instead of spaces. Okay. Let's rename it in our record, by the way. Trimming spaces in multiple sounds way more intuitive to me. Done. Perfect. Awesome. So one more scenario to go, and that's extracting numbers from a string. So if we only wanted to extract all of the numerals, there would be a quick way to do that, right? Let's see what that looks like. So I'll add a custom column. And for just extracting the numerals, we could use text.select. So ts, select text.select, press tab to select that, pass in our text field, and here we can say select cars as any, so we'll use a list with the list initializers. That's a set of those curly brackets. Select everything from 0 up to 9. Close my list, close my function, press OK, and this gets me all of the numerals. So instead of getting one blob of text, I want to separate out each number from the string, right? So if the numbers are joined together, then they represent just one value. If they're not, if they're separated in some way, I want to extract that as a separate value. Let's take a look into that. So personally, I like splitters for a job like that. I'll add another custom column. And I'll call this solution. Call the splitter function. So I'm looking for splitter split text by any delimiter. There it is. Tab to select it. Add the parentheses. And it takes just one single argument. And that's delimiters as a list. So again, list initializers, and we want to split that by spaces. So enter a space here, comma, and I've also seen this right here, right? Close my list, close my splitter function, let's press OK, and this returns a function, of course. We've already seen how to invoke a function, right? By adding another set of parentheses. So let's do that. I'll open it again. Add a set of parentheses. Pass in our text field. Closing parentheses. Press OK. Perfect. And this now returns a list. Let's take a look inside. So I'll press off to the side in the white space. Right. So this is joined together, so I also need to remove all other characters except for those numerals, right? So we need to transform the list that we're looking at, and for each list item, only keep the numerals. Let's do that. I'll open the advanced editor window and zoom in. Let's move this to a new line. So list transform. Comma. Transform as function. So each text select a text, so here we can use the underscore for each item in our list, and again the selection characters, we'll use a list again and pass in all of the numerals, so 0 up to 9. Closing parentheses for list.transform and press done. Let's take another peek inside. Awesome. Let's check out our other lists as well. So we do have blanks now inside of our list, right? We can remove those with list.remove items. I'll open the advanced editor window. Again, I'll zoom in. Let's format this a bit. Let's see. So list remove items. List remove items. Opening parentheses. Comma. And it wants a list with all of the items that we want to remove from the first list. So as a list, paste in our empty text string. Closing parentheses. Let's press done. See if that worked. Awesome. Right, so now we can combine each of the items in our list again with text.combine. Open the advanced editor window, zoom in. Text.combine, select that, opening parentheses. Comma, and as a separator we want a comma and a space. Closing parentheses, let's press done. Perfect. So let's add this logic to our custom function record, right? Open the advanced editor window, select everything that we see here. Control C to copy that, and I'll press tab to indent it as well. So perfect. I forgot to declare type there as well, so let's do that. Comma type text, so that will set the data type for the column. Great. Go to my custom function record, open that up. Enter a comma, and at the end of the last line, press enter to go to a new line. And again, we can create a field name. So let's call this, what should we call this? Extract all numbers. Equals, and let's just go to new line and paste in the logic that we copied. We still need to turn this into a function, so use that function initializer. Again, we're going to have to pass this function a text string, so again I'll call that variable string. That will be a type text, so as text. And the return type of this function will also be a text data type, so as text. And instead of that field name reference here, sub in our variable name, so string. Press done. Go back to our query. So we've now created a suitcase that has 3 functions in it. And again, we're going to test if that works. So we'll add a custom column here. Custom function record. We'll call our function, so that's myfx. Select the field from that record. So extract all numbers. Add the parentheses to invoke that on the text field. So press OK. Perfect. And again, we can set that data type for this column as well. So type text. Perfect. You can think of the myfx record as a suitcase that you can bring along with you, pressing Ctrl C to copy the query and Ctrl V to paste it in another Power Query instance. whether that's Power BI, Excel, or Power Query Online, like you find in data flows, or whatever. The important thing is that you can gradually start building a collection with your own custom functions that are tailored towards your specific needs. This will not only speed up your development, but also ensures that the same logic is applied across all of your work. You can also share your library with colleagues, for example. One thing that I didn't cover is adding documentation to your custom functions, which is important for maintenance and, of course, whomever will inherit your work. Alex Powers did a session on that. I've got it here, so let me bring that in. You can find it on the YouTube channel of Microsoft. Look for Power BI Dev Camp session 22. This will totally cover everything you need to know about adding documentation to your own functions, to your own custom functions. Well, that's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed this session and found some bits and pieces useful. Thank you so much for joining me and enjoy the rest of the summit. All the best!